Welcome back, everybody. Author Refiloe Moahloli is passionate about writing stories that bring out the best in the human spirit and that children can identify with and celebrate themselves. Refiloe has, over the years, established herself as one of the forces to be reckoned with in the industry. Adding on to her list of books, she has recently released two offerings, Know My Name and You Are Loved. Here's a discussion she had with my colleague, Ikgomotseng Segopolo.
You've written quite a number of children's books. Just take us through how this journey has been from when you started to where it is now.
So it began with how many ways can you say hello? So hello is the beginning of a conversation, and as that conversation continued, because already it was starting about bringing heritage. Another book that reminded me of my own childhood. I'm a huge cricket fan, and one of the games that I played as a child is called Three Tins, and so I wrote a story about the child who used to play three toti, we used to call it in Xhosa, at school, and then using that talent and channeling it into cricket. So that's Yes Yanga, Yike Yanga in Xhosa, and then we moved on to We Are One, which is really a story that goes into Ubuntu and what does that mean, and looking at it from a point of kindness and how when I'm being kind to another person, I am also being kind to myself because we are connected. And even looking at the self saying, I start kindness by being kind to myself and then I'm better able to be kind to others. So it's kindness in relationship. And then Know My Name, which is, my first chapter book. It's, getting into novels, is really about identity from the get-go. From when our parents give us our name, there's an intention behind that. So my names together, Refiloe Palisa, means we are given a flower. And I have those kinds of chats with the kids in terms of, okay, as you step into the world, already there's an intention that you go into the world with. And then we follow the journey of these twins, Rorisang and Morena, as that naming unfolds. I mean, in their everyday lives, being 11-year-old kids, right? In school, they're in new school, sport, all these things. But how do we bring our heritage and who we are and our family background to equip us as we face life? And then You Are Loved, really that goes into the expression of love, but expression in general, and how we tend to follow patterns from our primary caregivers, and we follow something that's been a pattern from Koko, Gogo, Mama, and gets to Atando, who's the main character. And she starts asking because she wants to understand herself. So she starts this conversation amongst the family members, intergenerationally. And then this year also we had How Many Ways Can You Say Goodbye, which is 4 years later. As life happens, change comes in, we do have to sometimes say goodbye. So we go into that and just expressing those emotions, expressing that sadness. When I go to the schools, I like to say to the kids, we don't let the sadness form a storm in our hearts, so that we don't stay sad forever. We express that sadness, we share it with someone. You tell someone how you're feeling. And in expressing it, we allow the storm to clear because the rainbow will come out. It's not the end. Goodbye is not an end. It's also a beginning to something new. So I've gone all kinds of directions, not necessarily in order in terms of the books, but again, just to emphasize that it's really through these characters exploring what it means to be human in relationship with others. Those are the main themes.
And where do you draw inspiration from for your books?
That was really inspired by my nieces. When they started school, I saw this trend of losing the use of their mother tongue, because when they go into school, they went into an English medium school, so the environment they're in mostly speaks English, and then already our television, our media, a lot of the things are in English, so then without being at home and speaking, they spoke isiZulu at the time, they were speaking less and less, and it sat with me, and I observed it not just with the children around me, just in general, even with myself. So I think that sparked an interest in me in terms of how do we keep engaging with our languages, and that was on one end, and then on the other end I was speaking to my aunt, just sharing this concern, and she was a retired lecturer at the time, and she mentioned how she speaks 6 of the 11 official languages, and I was blown away by that. And she was saying how sometimes when she'd lecture, she'd tell the kids, her students, that if there's something you don't understand, chances are I can explain it in the language you speak. And when she said that, it just sparked this idea of, at the very least, as South Africans, we should be able to greet each other in any of the official languages, which is where the idea for how many ways can you say hello came from. So it started there, and then I fell in love with writing for children after that.
You've worked with a number of illustrators throughout your career. Talk to us about how important it is to work with illustrators that understand your work.
They've been great. They've been brilliant, all of them. So the first illustrator I worked with, Anya Stikkeert, she illustrated How Many Ways Can You Say Hello and How Many Ways Can You Say Goodbye. And I fell in love with her illustrations. That's how I saw her work on Facebook. And I was just like, it created a feeling in me. And that's what you want it to create with children, where they can relate. It was like fluffy illustrations, beautifully so. And I think that's what attracts children as well. And particularly at the earlier age, that's how they read. They read through pictures, actually, and the adults read the actual words. So it's very important. It's a collaboration between the words and the pictures speaking to each other. So she did a really amazing job with that series. And then, yes, Younger, a young man, so proud of him. He really made very lifelike characters. You could almost grab them out of the book. His name is Moahloli. He did the illustrations for Yes Younger. And then more recently, Zenalda McDonald did the illustrations for We Are One and You Are Loved. And she's an award-winning illustrator, and it shows. Already, We Are One has won not just for the book in terms of recognition, but for the design. So very important. She's done a really great job with those stories. And then for Know My Name, the illustrators Katlego Geogale, who she has an animation background, and it's come out in her illustrations. I have a lot of people that say to me, oh my goodness, you could illustrate this series, So I've been very honored to work with all these illustrators, because they really they've created such great work, and it just gives that extra edge in terms of attracting the eyes. People are visual first, so it's been really great. Yeah.
When you look at the books that you have written, which ones would you say are your favorite? Were your favorite to write?
It's like asking me, who's your favorite child? Sure. They have all taken me on a journey of my own healing. And I have to be clear about that, because I also write for myself, And the ones, because I really struggled with this, on one end, the ones that were very significant in going in digging deep are the ones that speak about expressing emotions, So that would be How Many Ways Can You Say Goodbye? And You Are Loved. Those ones I had to take my own journey to say goodbye, for one, and look at how I express love, So those two do stand out on that end. And then on one end, Yes Younger, I told you I'm a cricket fan. I went to King Edward is a big cricket school. I went to them recently, and the joy I felt interacting, because the whole school plays cricket, and I saw how much that was fun for me as well, because again, it's a shared love, a shared passion. So those do stand out in terms of, but I mean, Know My Name, again, you see, I'm going to go through all of them. Know My Name, what a journey. That was my first novel, essentially, right? Getting really deep into character development. So I can tell you about all of them like I just did. But yeah, I've given you some highlights.
Just share with us some of your career highlights as a writer.
They are different, right? They are the kind of highlights where you get external recognition, which I don't take them for granted, because that means that the stories have resonated. That's like what this is about. So the big things, for instance, We Are One, has been, the rights have been purchased by a US company, a US publishing company. So that's going to be available worldwide. That's a huge thing. The message is spreading. How many can you say, hello, my first baby just won recently 2 awards, one winning in the children's category. And then the other one that surprised me so much, I screamed during the ceremony. I was like, ah! was winning the overall category. So, almost like in competition, though I don't believe in competition, but in and amongst the adult categories of fiction, non-fiction, this children's book won overall. And that was big, that was a big, like, wow. And that's votes. That was booksellers who voted. And again, it's just people who bought the book. It's amazing. So those things are very affirming in terms of, okay, it's being received at least as I intended to, So that's on the one end in terms of externally, but internally, definitely highlights have been how the books have transformed me, and that is in process as I am also growing with the messages and applying them in my own life. And interacting with children and also learning from them. There's been a lot of healing for my own inner child, because writing for children, I delved deep into that. And I think the growth that I have experienced from writing the stories, there's no value to that. I can't value that. It's invaluable.
Your future as a writer, is it going to be going into other genres, or are you going to focus solely on children's books?
Wow, difficult to answer. I can only answer for the present.
Yeah.
I know there has been a progression. I started with writing, for the younger kids, very young, elementary, and then now I've already written for teenagers, I like to call them, and now I'm working a book for teens. So there is a progression, and I do have stories I'd like to share that maybe are more targeted toward an older audience. I already write poetry for an older audience, so I think chances are probably will explore the other spaces as well.
And just sort of as a tail ender, what are your views on the current state of children's literacy in the country?
It's definitely something that I think we all are aware needs improvement. And, you hear a lot of stats in terms of our reading levels of our kids, right? And I don't just want to speak to the stats because we're aware of the stats, but I think for me, I want to speak to, and what do the stats mean? Beyond reading for meaning and being able to now be in a learning environment, right? What do those stats mean? And I think what reading, and independent reading enables a child is them to be fully able to explore who they are, right? Because they can go find out for themselves. Unfortunately, without the ability to read, to research, to explore for yourself, which is what books and reading open up in terms of the world, there comes a dependency of information coming secondhand. And who knows where that information comes from? And sometimes, you get information that it's not necessarily wrong or right, but it may not be right for you. And then now you're trying to squeeze yourself into a situation that doesn't work for you. What we need in terms of improving our literacy level and improving independent reading for our children is really about empowering them to go and read for themselves, to find out for themselves, to be able to express for themselves and not just get information coming in. And that's why it's such an important thing. It's about empowerment, really, so that our children can stand tall in whatever situation they land up in, or in whatever country they land up in, right? So that they have an option to go wherever they want to go and be whoever they choose to be.